By hour 48, the only things still doing their jobs were the dashcams. The deputies were running on caffeine and nerves. The dogs were tired. The volunteers were glassy-eyed. Even the sheriff's voice on the radio had that raw, sanded-down sound. The cameras, though, blinking little red LEDs in the mist, kept recording. That's why they finally brought me up. I'm not a field guy. I'm the one they hand evidence to once it's clean and bagged and safely back in town. Basement office, static floor mats on the ground, 2 monitors, anti-static wrist strap if I'm feeling virtuous, digital evidence, computers, phones, infotainment systems from vehicles, dash cams. I'd already cloned the phones the first night, all 5, nothing exciting. Text threads about snacks, fuel stops, one of them joking about sacrifice the Subaru if we get stuck, the usual trip banter. After 24 hours with no check-in, they were officially missing. At 36, the Forest Service brought in more crews. At 40, the sheriff called my office and said, "Rourke, put on some boots. We found the trucks." So now I'm shoved in the back of a county Tahoe, knees against a trauma bag, laptop in a backpack, heading up a Forest Service road while fog drags itself across the hood. Deputy Mills drives. He's on his 3rd energy drink and only half hiding the hand tremor. "You ever been up Blacktail Ridge, Rourke?" "No," I said. He snorts. "Well, you're about to be more familiar with it than you want to be." I knew these people first as metadata. 3 rigs, a silver 3rd-gen 4Runner with more stickers than paint, a white Tacoma with steel bumpers and a winch, an older Jeep XJ, primer flaking, the kind of build you only keep pouring money into if you love trails more than good decisions. Local off-road club. They aired down together at the gas station, took a selfie, texted to a group called Dust and Trust, time-stamped 7/12 2 mornings ago. 5 names. I've read them enough in forms that they don't feel like strangers. Slade, 33, contractor, owned the Tacoma. Marin, 31, nurse, passenger. His brother, Cal, in the 4Runner with his girlfriend, Lena. And there was Jonathan Ames, the Jeep owner, 46, software sales, the oldest in the group and the club president. The one people called if their rig broke halfway up some washed-out Forest Service road. I know all of this in the way that you know file structures, without faces, without voices, until I start hearing their voices on tape. The ridge is a different world. The Tahoe grinds up the last switchback and the trees fall away into this pale gray nothing. The fog is thick enough that every pine that appears feels like a jump scare, dripping, black-needled arms reaching out of the white. You can't see the actual drop, but you can feel it, the way the road shoulders crumble into a whole lot of air. They've parked the 3 missing rigs nose to tail along the inside of the curve. Orange evidence flags flutter around them like someone tried to decorate for Halloween and gave up. I step out and my boots sink into mud and crushed gravel. It's quiet here in a way that's wrong. No distant highway, no chainsaws, no other engines. Just wind in the branches and the occasional pop as water drips, freezes, and shifts. The trucks look polite about it, all lined up, all intact. Doors open, keys still dangling from ignitions, CB whips standing straight up off of bumpers. A couple of the driver's seats still carry the crumpled depression of someone who got out and meant to come back. No broken glass, no obvious skid marks. No blood. If you showed me this scene without context, I'd say they parked to go look at the view. Except there's no view, or there isn't now, just white. Mills claps a hand on my shoulder, steering me toward the Tacoma. They're all still powered. Sheriff wants to know what they saw before they went for a stroll. Get what you can. We don't want to tow them until we've got the dogs through them again. Okay, I said. My voice comes out thin in the cold air. I'll need somewhere to set up out of the rain, at least. He pops open his door. Command truck is on its way up. For now, you can use my dash as a desk. Welcome to the field, Rourke. Off-road culture is something I knew about mostly through crash footage and YouTube. Guys narrating their own rollovers. Okay, nope, that's a flop. Bare arms out windows when they shouldn't be. Beers visible in cup holders like evidence that writes its own report. But you also get the other side. The slow, methodical climbs. Someone outside the rig, guiding tires over boulders. Driver a hair, little more, straighten out, you're good. The mix of trust and risk. It's part of the culture. You start to recognize the type. The people who put half their paycheck into lockers and good tires. Who know which pressure to air down to for slick red clay versus sharp volcanic rock. Who names their rigs and who talks to them. These trucks are like that. Real builds. Steel where it matters. Proper recovery gear. No Instagram mall crawler nonsense. Nobody like that walks away from their rig on a ridge in freezing fog and doesn't come back. I plug my portable dock into the Tacoma cigarette lighter, snake a cable up to the dash cam. It's one of those mid-range units you can buy at Walmart. Loop recording, G-sensor, optional GPS. I've seen 50 of them. The little screen flickers, shows me a grainy view of the fog in the back of the Jeep from a few days prior. Recording. So whatever happened, it didn't involve these trucks going over. I slide out the SD card, pop in my own right blocker, start a clone to my laptop on Mill's front seat. The process bar inches forward. The cold seeps through my jeans. Somewhere down the ridge, a dog barks once, sharp and startled, then gets cut off. Radio chatter crackles, copy moving east along the draw. Someone coughs into their mic. I keep my eyes on the numbers. The audio comes along with the video, a little compressed stream right in the file. The nice thing about dash cams is people forget their microphones too. You get a lot of truth that way. I scrub back about an hour before the truck stopped. The screen shows sunlight, not fog. The trucks are climbing through forest, tall pines and patches of blue sky. The camera rocks with each pothole. Mud splatters the lens and dries in the wind. Voices blur with emotion. This trail's sick, dude, someone says in the background. Cal, if I remember the personnel sheet right. Look at that drop. Oh man, Lena, don't look down. They shouldn't have taken the blacktail in spring, Mills mutters from beside me, watching over my shoulder. Not with snowmelt. Idiots. On the audio, Slade laughs. We got lockers, we're fine. Ames, you back there? A different voice, older, crackles over what would be a CB radio. Forerunner, you're dragging a bit on the rear. Take driver 3 inches and you're through. That'll be Ames. He's spotting over the radio, sitting in the Jeep behind, eyes on their line. That's normal convoy protocol. The most experienced runs sweep, barks corrections when necessary. I fast forward and 10-second jumps, trees, mud, the occasional glimpse of sky. More chatter about tire pressure, about stopping at the upper switchback for lunch. They're having a good day. No ominous music, no premonitions, just a group of people doing something they love. We reach the last 5 minutes before the present. The light changes. The video goes from bright midday to flat, gray overcast in a couple of jumps. Fog rolls in, a visible line sweeping across the road like someone closing a curtain. I slow it down to real time. The trucks pull onto the current stretch of ridge, hugging the inside. I can see the drop now as a gradient of white, darker hints of trees far below. It's not somewhere you'd want to sneeze near the edge. Damn, says Marin's voice. It's full Silent Hill up here. Copy, Ames says on CB. Just follow the cut in the bank. Don't get cute. You're almost there. Almost where? Someone else laughs, but the words are clipped by static. Then, another voice comes on frequency. I feel it before I parse it. A subtle shift, something off in tone, like when you pick up your phone and it's already mid-ring. Just keep coming. The voice says. You're doing fine. You can leave the trucks on the ridge and walk the rest. It's not far. But nobody reacts. Nobody says, who's that? Or say again. No one laughs it off. Maybe they didn't hear it. Maybe it was only the recording. On screen, the trucks pull to their current positions. One by one, they brake, rock to a stop. Doors open out of frame. Shadows move. Slade's voice, closer to the camera now, says, let's check it out on foot. If it's too sketch, we'll turn around. Copy, Ames says. And that's it. They walk away. The camera keeps rolling, and fog eats them alive. That's the last time we saw them. There's no sign of them coming back. On the audio, a few seconds after the last door thumps shut, the radio clicks again. Bring them up. The same unknown voice says, soft and clear. Bring them all the way up. Then silent. Just wind hiss and distant creaks. Behind me, Mills swears under his breath. You get that time stamped, he asks. Yeah, I say, my mouth is dry. 1341, yesterday. Any other rigs on their channel? Not that I've heard so far, I say. He shifts from foot to foot, watching the fog swallow the trees. You can tell he wants this to be easy, some ranger prank, a hunter, crosstalk from another group. Could be bleed, I say. Could be some yahoo on another trail. Sure, he says. It could, but that level is wrong. The signal is too clean. There's no hiss riding it like you get with distance. It sounds close, like the speaker is standing at the hood. They leave me alone with the trucks while they expand the search grid. Mills hands me his handheld radio before he goes, like a consolation prize. Channel 3, we're monitoring, don't wander. He disappears sideways into the gray, his bright jacket dimming in the mist. Footsteps crunch on gravel, then fade. For a minute I can still hear him talking to someone else, but the fog swallows that too. It's just me, 3 rigs, and the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. I move down the line, pulling cards, cloning, labeling. Jeep first. Ames kept his dashcam more dialed in, better angle. The Forerunner second. The cameras all show the same last view. The parked convoy, the white void, the empty driver's seats. Different dashboards framing the same absence. I know enough about 4x4 people to see the ghost of them in their interiors. A cracked open bag of jerky on the Tacoma's console. Muddy recovery strap coiled with more care than jumper cables. A little dash-mounted inclinometer showing the truck is tilted a cautious 5 degrees toward the bank. In the Forerunner, there's a worn-down gear knob someone replaced with an 8-ball. A pair of cheap sunglasses hanging from the sun visor. A folded topo map, edges soft with use, wedged into the door pocket. Trail names circled in yellow highlighter. These are the kind of people who walk their lines before they drive them. They watch each other's tires. They know how fast the weather turns. They wouldn't just wander blind into fog unless they thought someone had eyes on ahead. The cable from my dock snakes across the mud to Mills Tahoe. The laptop hums. The progress bars creep. For a while, there's nothing but wind and my own breath and the occasional comforting boring windows sound. Then, behind me in the trees, I hear something moving. It starts as a soft, irregular crunch, like something big stepping on wet branches, careful but not sneaky enough. I freeze, turn my head, glasses fogging slightly from my breath. There's nothing to see but shapes, dense tree trunks fading into lighter bands behind them. The fog shifts and curls, making gaps appear and vanish. I tell myself it's just a deer or an elk. We scared something up with all the noise earlier, and it's circling back. The crunch comes again, closer. I thumb the radio with my free hand. The habit isn't mine. It's something I've watched 100 officers do. My fingers don't quite know the buttons. I key up, but nothing coherent makes it out of my mouth. Rourke, I say finally, still at the trucks. I heard something in the tree line. Static answers me, then I click to reply. Copy, could be deer. We had prints downridge. You're good. It does not feel good. There's a special kind of vulnerability that comes from knowing exactly how many ways you can be wrong about what you're hearing. I've spent years listening for dropped packets, modulation patterns, compression artifacts. I know better than most that your brain is desperate to make sense, to turn random noise into words, wind into whispers, a branch snapping into footsteps. The crunch stops. Something invisible in the mist exhales a wet snort. Hooves clatter on rock, almost explosive as they charge down the mountain. The sound launches away downslope, receding in long, urgent bursts. Deer, I tell myself, just deer. The words don't help very much. When I turn back to the laptop, the audio has hit the part where the unknown voice says, "Bring them up." I watch the waveform spike. I watch my software draw its neat little rectangles of volume and frequency and make the voice into something that looks almost logical. I replay it again, then again. I isolate it and loop it until the 5 words are just shapes. Bring them up, bring them up, bring them all the way up. On the 5th loop, the radio on my chest clicks. Just a carrier, no voice. A half-second of dead air before someone else, farther away, cracks a joke about dogs needing union brakes. I know it's nothing. A bump to the push-to-talk, a thumb brushing plastic. It still feels like the mountain just cleared its throat. The next time I play the clip, I swear the unknown voice has shifted. The vowels feel rounder, like they're learning my accent. It's not real. It's not anything. My rational brain says this is firmly in the same tone as I use on corrupted flash drives and overwritten sims. Just my brain. There are no haunted cameras. There are no sympathetic radios. There is signal, and there is noise, and there is human interpretation overlaid like tracing paper. Still, I catch myself glancing up between replays, scanning the fog at eye level, half expecting to see someone leaning against a tree with a mic in their hand, watching me work. Back at the office, after they haul me down the mountain at dusk, I run the voice through everything I have. I pull clean samples of everybody else from the convoy, Aim's patient, slightly amused instructions, Slade's brash jokes, Lena's underscored curses when the truck lurches, Marin humming along with the radio, Cal yelling, "Send it," into the mist. I build profiles, I stack spectrograms, I compare the unknown voice's consonants to theirs, the plosives, the way it hits the R's. It doesn't match any of them. It doesn't sound like Mills or the sheriff or any of the other deputies whose body cam audio I have archived somewhere deeper in the server. It doesn't match the Forest Service guys or the volunteer coordinator. The voice doesn't match anyone. If you transcribed it on paper and showed it to a technician, they'd say, bleed from another channel, a hunter, another hobbyist on the mountain, an old repeater caught in a loop. But I keep coming back to the level, the cleanliness, and the timing. 13:41, the exact minute they turn off their engines, open their doors, and choose to walk away. Bring them up. We're at hour 56 now. The search has moved downslope, chasing a hint of a boot print near a drainage. They call me into the sheriff's office with a thumb drive and a headache building behind my right eye. Mathis nods to the chair. "What do you got for me, Rourke?" I tell him the truth as I can frame it. We've got CB traffic consistent with the missing group, and one fragment that doesn't match their voices, or anyone's we've sampled. It appears shortly before they left the vehicles. He leans back, folds his hands over his gut. Could it be some kind of handheld up there screwing around? Yes, I say, it could. There are a lot of mundane explanations. List them, he says. Well, crossband interference from a hunter's radio, an old repeater nobody logged that's still bouncing pre-recorded instructions. Could be radio reflections making one voice sound like two, overlapping. Even packet loss in a digital noise reduction chip misassembling words. He raises an eyebrow. And what's your gut say? My gut says someone lured them out where we can't see them. My gut says that the voice sounds like it already knew they were going to obey. I'm not supposed to have a gut, I say instead. I'm supposed to have data, though. Mathis laughed once without humor. Well, welcome to the rest of our jobs. I didn't sleep much that night. When I close my eyes, I see the ridge, the way the fog erases distance, the truck sitting there like a question someone forgot to finish. I hear the crunch of hooves in the underbrush, replayed and remixed with the radio click that borrowed, placid tone. You can leave the trucks. It's not far. I keep thinking about how much faith is built into all of this. You have to trust your rig when you take it somewhere it was never meant to go. Trust your friend when they tell you to turn driver or passenger a hair. Trust that whoever keys up on your channel and sounds like they know the trail isn't an echo from 3 ridges over or 3 years ago. You have to trust that the camera is telling you the truth. I've trusted those things more than I've trusted people. You can verify firmware versions. You can hash a file and check its integrity. People change. People misremember. So what happens when the gear starts to feel complicit? When the only solid record you have of 5 human beings disappearing into the fog includes a stranger's voice steering them away from the only anchor point you can see. When the waveform of that voice looks normal, but something in the back of your brain insists it doesn't belong there. When you find yourself pausing your own dash cam on the way home from work because the red light in the corner of your windshield suddenly feels like an eye, and you'd rather not have any of it record at all the moment you take the curve by the river a little too fast. I keep digging. The day ticks over into 63 hours. The search shifts from rescue to recovery and everything but name. The news mentions difficult terrain and challenging conditions, and rolls old photos of the missing, Ames in a club t-shirt by his Jeep, Slade and Marin both throwing fake gang signs at the camera in front of their Tacoma, Cal and Lena in a grocery store parking lot with mud up to their doors. I find another fragment of the unknown voice on the Forerunner's dashcam audio, not the ridge, but 15 minutes before, as they were climbing a lesser hill. It's buried deep under static there, jittery and short. Almost there, it says. Just keep coming. Nobody remarks on it then either. The level is lower. It could be bleed, but the phrase repeats. The same words, the same cadence. Almost there. Almost where? I start to map the fragments against the GPS track from the cams. Their route is a simple line up a forest road, turn off onto a rougher trail, follow the spine of the ridge. The unknown voice appears at 2 points, once at an unmarked junction where an old spur road peels away and then dead ends at nothing, and once at the final curve where they're parked now. If you stripped everything else away and just looked at the tech, the story reads like this. They followed the trail. Twice, a nearby signal told them that they were almost somewhere. Twice, they made decisions that carried them into thinner and thinner margins of safety. The rest is blanks we scribble over with theory. Maybe there was a hunter up there, seeing their rigs from a distance through a scope, bored enough or cruel enough to guide them into worse footing. Maybe some legacy mining equipment on the opposite ridge is still faithfully rebroadcasting load instructions from men who died decades ago, and the convoy just happened to have their squelch low enough to hear it. Maybe one of their own radios was misconfigured, bouncing their words back at them in a voice the mic flattened into something unrecognizable. Or maybe, and this is the one that keeps me turning my pillow over for the cool side at 3 a.m., maybe they heard nothing at all. Maybe the voice is only on the recording, a glitch, a splice of a truck commercial from the radio, cut and pasted by random bit errors into something that sounds like intent. Something only I will ever replay enough times to learn by heart. In that case, the lure was never for them. It was for me. On the 3rd day, the fog finally lifts. They find a slide halfway down a ravine off a game trail. Disturbed soil and snap branches, one torn scrap of fabric that might be denim. No bodies, no boots. Just enough suggestion to justify shrinking the search radius, then shrinking it again. I sit in my office that night with the lights off, the glow of the waveform editor painting my hands in blue. I queue up all the unknown audio clips on the devices at once. Just keep coming, says the voice. 4 waveforms bump in time. You can leave the trucks. It's not far. Bring them up. If you listen to it long enough, sentences stop sounding like instructions and start sounding like promises. We'll file a report. There will be a paragraph in it about unidentified CB transmission, likely crosstalk or environmental interference. It will be accurate and incomplete. I'll write a supplemental memo with the spectrograms and the decibel levels and a note explaining that, in my professional opinion, the signal originated close to the vehicles. A lawyer will read it someday if there's a civil suit. A judge might skim it. No one will care that I started flinching at the sound of my own radio clicking in the hallway. No one will care that I unplugged the dashcam in my Civic last night and put it in a drawer because the idea of creating more footage of myself driving through empty dark made my skin crawl. They'll ask me, if it ever comes up, what do you think happened up there? And I'll say, honestly, I think 5 people trusted their equipment and their experience, and maybe a voice on their radio a little too far. I think the mountain doesn't care if you mean well. I think the data we have is the only reason we know anything at all, and it's also the thing that makes this feel worse, because it's not quite lining up. I have theories. I think about an illegal hunter, a bored stranger, a repeater some mining company forgot to turn off. I think about reflections and echoes. I think about the way sound wraps around terrain. I think about how many times I've seen words appear in noise when I already suspected they were there. Mostly, I think about how, if I mute the known voices and play only the unknown one, what's left doesn't sound like cruel or panicked or insane speech. It sounds patient, confident, like whoever it belongs to had done this before, like they knew how far people will go when someone who sounds like they know what they're doing says, "You're almost there." I don't tell anyone the last part. That sometimes, when the building's quiet and I'm staying late to finish paperwork, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the servers humming behind the wall, I catch myself listening past the air conditioning for a little click, a carrier tone, a half second of dead sound before a voice folds itself out of the noise and tells me, "Bring them up." And that a small, treacherous part of me wants to obey, wants to stand, leave my office, walk away from the safe stack of drives and evidence bags, out into the parking lot and past my car, and keep going until the town lights fade and the road turns to gravel and the trees start up on either side. Because for the first time in my career, I'm not sure the records I keep are protecting anyone. I'm not sure the truth on those cards, those drives, will ever translate into an answer that makes it easier to sleep. So I lock my office instead. I drive home with the windshield bare, no red LED blinking in the corner, no record of where I went or when I stopped at the light by the river. And when I park, I sit in the dark a second longer than I need to, listening to the engine tick as it cools, the faraway hiss of tires on wet pavement, the empty silence of my own dash. If there's a voice in it, I can't hear it. But I know better than most now that just because it's not on the recording doesn't mean that it wasn't there.